It's got a bunch of numbers, it's well designed, and it's assembled by the brand itself. But will it disappoint? Let's find out. As a designer and aspiring watch producer, I pretty much know where microbrands get their watch parts, mainly from Japan and China. So it's not often that you come across a brand that not only assembles their watches but also regulates them. And that's exactly what Nodus has been doing for the longest while. And for the longest while, I've been aspiring to get one of their watches for review. And I'm happy to report that they finally sent us one, like, well, months ago, and I finally had the time to review the Nodus sector. And this is arguably one of their best watch designs because, well, it's the one that captured my attention. The others are, well, not so. Let's just say they're quite normal and quite familiar. But this one, I was happy that I picked the right one to review. When we tag professional on any occupation, we have come to expect a higher level of workmanship. Professional plumbers should be a step above your typical Italian plumber, professional basketball players running back to defend the basket rather than their fragile ego, and professional grade watchers keeping time accurately and not just having loud clicks and fancy loom. One glance at Nodus, well, scratch that, any Nodus, you'll immediately notice a certain composure to their design. As much as I began this review by telling you that Nodus somewhat has generic offerings, I must say that even their generic offerings look a cut above the usual microbrand. Let's begin with the sizing. The sector falls on the smaller side of things because of the streamlined lugs and tight bezel design. It's not unnecessarily large, nor is it a relic of the times when collars requires the clearance of air traffic controllers. Right away, I noticed the nice tight tolerances of the bracelet. The crown feels very similar with the large gripping area and the stem turns being as solid as a rock. Pilot watches are known for their oversized crowns to ensure that you can turn it while wearing your favorite leather glove inside the cockpit. Of course, it's more likely that you're cosplaying as your favorite dead legendary pop star, but you can still turn this crown all the same. And no, Usher is still alive. Operation is good and the visuals are equally impressive. They use these tried and true floating aviator hands for supreme legibility. Of course, they're not really floating literally, they got this moniker because of having black painted parts near the hand stack that blends with typical black dials, creating this visual effect of the hands floating over the surface. Another great thing is this bezel. One finger is not enough to turn it. It's that tight that it actually demands you to turn it deliberately. I prefer my clicky bezels as most of you know, but this is something that I fully support. Under the case is the quick release spring bars that let you switch between straps with ease and quickness. While others offer this same mechanism, Nodus adds a stopper for the end links, helping you to set it as you release the spring bars in place. They also have this micro adjust feature on the clasp that they call Nodex. You'll need to press it to adjust and press it again to push in. It's actually more secure than other watches that I've handled before where you can push the links in with its ratcheting design. The top side of the clasp is a signed enclosure that has these buttons recessed in the structure. This keeps the streamlined design of the bracelet intact. Now let's switch straps to see how versatile this Nodus sector is. Watch collecting is a very multifaceted hobby. While most watches offer the utility to tell the time, it's also expected to have the aesthetic playability to go with it. If you play your cards right, the watch design is more than enough to carry the looks even if the strap came from your local dollar store. This generic racing strap works well enough to counter that dark dial and bezel to give this configuration a more summery and sporty vibe. From up this close, you can see the fabric on this is rather thin and cheaply made, but it gets the effect done as it also hides the excess material under your skin. Now, just imagine if you have a much more premium band to accompany this gorgeous case. Well, you know what's coming. The only premium strap that managed to make it in every video in this channel that hasn't paid me a single dime yet from all my undying support, Artem straps. Just look at that. This light-toned silk cloth strap simply has the finer details that's absent from my previous hobo strap. This loopless strap from Artem can definitely hang with the professional grade Nodus that we're reviewing. If you want a darker, more utilitarian tone, Artem also offers these black variants that's sure to touch your hardworking heart. Well, keep in mind, your wallet also needs to work hard for these Artems as their costs can pile up rather quickly. The textures on these can also give that additional enjoyment that your wife will surely roll their eyes faster than you can say NATO. You'll go, "Oh, honey, did I ever tell you that Artem also makes NATO straps?" Then she'll go, "Yes, honey, I know. Which color do you want me to buy next for you?" Then you'll say, "Oh, for this Notice, the blue Seamaster color would be awesome." Now, as you wake back to reality, you'll find out that you've been watching this video all along and notice how versatile the Nodus sector is. Well, other people also notice the Nodus, and here's what they've been saying. My mom says, well, she likes it. Northwest by Night looks like he wants to eat it. P. Martinez, however, thinks otherwise, as he says that the Freemason symbolism is a no for him. It's time to check out the materials used for this watch. The narrow bezel used here is DLC coated and beautifully marked with a countdown scale. Having a narrow bezel like this compresses the impression of the watch greatly while maximizing the dial surface area. There is a raised bevel sapphire glass that creates a refracting effect, while on the sides we're treated with a double chamfer from the top and bottom of the case. There's also a drilled lug hole to further aid in strap changing, and the bracelet is nice and robust with the links having these tight tolerances. There's a satisfying snap on the clasp. I would have loved to have some polished chamfers here, but then again it might have been worn out already because of this review unit being, well, worn out. And of course, feel free to fidget some more on that micro adjust mechanism. I don't know what they did differently when it comes to this micro adjust mechanism, but you cannot deny its smooth and reliable operation. It always works each and every time. The case back is as simple as can be with its edge figures and details. They also add some painting on them, so it's a plus point for effort. While some readily say that it's manufactured in the United States, the back clearly says it's designed and assembled in Los Angeles. It's a given that the parts for these are mostly imported from overseas suppliers. The dial is a designer's dream here with so many elements that manages to entertain while not being convoluted. I mean, I typically criticize any product that uses more than 3 different types of fonts and sizes, but here they all work together to emphasize the useful parts while the smaller details are applied discreetly. Check this out. The text on the day and date complication is very different from the dial numerals. That's excusable because people won't notice this minute detail. On the numerals though, they use a uniform typeface and applied it on this 3D style index. Very cool. Smaller flourishes like this Nodus branding is applied in a small discrete area, so it's not grabbing you by the arm asking your attention. What deserves your attention is this step on the dial that separates the numerals from the center portion. It's separated by texture and dimension. There's also a semblance of a sector dial in there with these lines separating the quadrants. But that's barely noticeable because of the other elements on the surface. See, there's so much going on and yet it becomes part of this overall design. All this while displaying a very cool blue sheen. Moving outward, we notice again the difference in font style like the trees here. This is likely because of supplier stock parts and it would be very costly to redesign these. But for the parts that they do have some hand in designing, they do it very well. Lastly, the loom application on this is pretty decent but could have been formulated a little better. It looks good, but it doesn't last that long. The biggest draw for Nodus to me is that it's assembled in the United States. Not that the location where it's assembled readily equates for a better quality watch, but let's be honest here, if the back of your watch says made in my uncle's kitchen / living room / bedroom, it would hardly be called a quality watch. So, does location matter? Well, Nodus certainly thinks so. They want these watches to be accurate and built the way they want it at their own location. Something that not every microbrand does, and something that only professionals like Nodus do. Here's the thing, based on experience, it's very easy to just get all of the off-the-shelf parts from
your typical watch manufacturer supplier and slap it on and assemble it in your watch, and then you can call it a day and sell it for a decent margin. But Nodus did far beyond what the normal microbrand practice would be, and they not only assemble their watches, inspect them, and regulate them, but they actually design these really well. I love the many different layers of this dial. I love the fonts that and typography that they used, and at the same time the tolerances and the finishing and the smoothness of this bezel. All of these amounts to a really well built watch that rivals many of what Swiss are actually doing right now. There are some sharp edges on this one. That's one thing that I would flat out tell you. But I think by the time of this review goes out, they may have improved their manufacturing already, and this is one of their older models. But I'm happy that they actually sent us one to review. It's a loaner. I'm going to be sending these back, but at the same time, maybe it's a stepping stone for me to find out their quality. And remember, they have this design lab that you can approach, and they can make these bespoke watches for a limited run or a limited amount. So you can check that out. And this is my way of checking it out, by having one in my hand and reviewing it. So that is the Nodus sector, and this is one of their best watches. If you look at their other collections, they're pretty good also, but to me they're a little bit, on the generic side. This is the one that really captured my attention. So what do you think? Which ones of Nodus would you like to see, or would you like to see me review, even if they're a little bit on the generic side? Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Sorry, Nodus, it's not a knock at you when I say it's kind of generic, but I've actually seen many of those designs before. But this one is a really good model, really good and well built Flieger. We can call it a Flieger. It's really nice. I love that crown too.